Americans. Facebook did, in fact, censor Americans. And Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. I love being proven right years later. And this says, August 26, 2024, the Honorable Chairman Jordan, I appreciate the committee's interest in content moderation on online platforms. As you are aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as part of your investigation and made 12 employees available for transcribed interviews. Further to our cooperation with your investigation, I welcome the opportunity to share what I've taken away from this process. There's a lot of talk right now about how the US government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. That's like a fucking trigger phrase for me now. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. As a part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns around public discourse and public safety. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think that we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressures from any administration in either direction. And we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. You know, I just don't believe you, because the damage is already done. You already capitulated to a regime trying to act in an authoritarian manner. And the fact that you're saying we won't do it again, well, I mean, who's going to be in the White House next? Trump. Like, obviously, you're not going to do anything his administration asks you to do, right? Not that he would ask to censor Facebook, but it's just like, well, obviously you're not going to. As long as the Republicans are in power. Show of hands, who actually believes this? The lizard man, he speaks? In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact-checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the US while waiting for fact-checkers. I also want to say the fact that the FBI went to Zuckerberg and lied about the laptop story being Russian disinformation. How is it that anyone doesn't agree with Donald Trump dismantling the fucking Fed? Like, even if you hate the guy, why would you not want him to dismantle the Fed? They are literally lying to you. Just because this lie happened to serve your own politics this time doesn't mean that they haven't lied about things far worse before and after that. The Fed or the FBI? The FBI are the Feds. NFA and the ATF too. Yeah, get rid of the ATF. Stop shooting dogs. FBI has been pulling this bullshit since J. Edgar Hoover was in charge. Yeah, absolutely. We won't do it again until Trump is no longer the president. Apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during a global pandemic. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan, spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. Still, despite the analysis I've seen showing otherwise, I know that some people believe this work benefited one party over the other. I mean, obviously. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role one way or another, or to even appear to be playing a role, so I don't plan on making a similar contribution this cycle. Well, fancy that! I love when I can now just quote Asmongold and him saying, always question it when doing the right thing just lines up with a good business decision. And in this case, it lines up with Zuckerberg's personal policies, where he's not going to be doing anything for the current administration. Burn Meta to the ground. Yeah, it's oddly convenient. I don't plan on, but I might. Bro can tell which way the wind is blowing now, at least. I mean, I guess so. Today, Mark Zuckerberg admitted in writing that the Biden admin pressured Facebook to censor COVID-19 information. Here is Mayorkas lying about it under oath in 2022. 100% absolutely committing perjury. When is Mayorkas going to prison?
Now, you said
I have a tab for that. I have a tab about gay, duck, necrophiliac sex.
The Fed is the Federal Reserve, not the FBI. Silicon Valley insiders tell me Zuck is genuinely pissed the FBI got one over on him. He's an old-fashioned lib nerd who genuinely cares about free speech, but also trusts the experts, until now.
Is it the Federal Reserve? Whenever I talked about the feds, I've always meant like FBI, CIA. The federal agents, as it were. I've never heard the Fed used as like specifically the Federal Reserve. The Feds, plural, yeah. Amazing. That's what I said. I did say the Feds earlier. The Fed versus the Feds. Yeah, I did use plural earlier. The Feds is FBI. The Fed is Federal Reserve. Yeah, isn't that what I said? Isn't that what I said? Feds, not the Fed. She said Fed earlier? Okay, well, I forgot the S then, I guess. Who cares? Arguing semantics doesn't work. You should read the Econ Man thread more often. Man, Glowy's awful quiet after that. Chubb fed Murky's the water too? What? No, you said Fed. Fed versus Feds. That's just leaving the S off, I guess. Autistic chat. I'll try to remember to use the S in the future, but I feel like people knew what I was talking about as well. Get rid of both. Also true. Also true. Get rid of both.
This year that you disbanded the Disinformation Governance Board, which I thought was totally unconstitutional, but that turns out to be, at best, misleading. That's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you're doing. Your own quadrennial review, which was just reported in the press, says that disinformation is going to be the new focus at DHS. The Quad Review says that DHS plans to target, I'm quoting now, inaccurate information domestically on a wide array of subjects, including, quoting, the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, racial justice, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the nature of U.S. support for Ukraine. A federal judge has just found as a finding of fact, Mr. Secretary, that your office, and I'm going to quote now, is supervising the nerve center of federally directed censorship. Here's another email, August 20th, 2021. Facebook writes again to HHS and highlights that Facebook is increasing the strength of our demotions for COVID and vaccine-related content. April 16th, 2021, Rob Flaherty at the White House circulates a Zoom meeting invitation to Twitter employees stating White House staff will be briefed by Twitter on vaccine misinformation. We have example after example of this administration coordinated, apparently, according to a federal court, by your agency, pressuring, coercing social media companies to engage in censorship. Is that constitutional?
That is unequivocally false.
Is what the emails show.
It is unequivocally false, Senator.
You are not pressuring the big tech companies to take down accounts. You are not meeting with them to ask them to censor on your behalf.
That is correct. We are not.
Mr. Secretary, it has been established for years in this country, as you very well know because you're a lawyer, that the federal government may not use private third parties to engage in activities that are unconstitutional. That's exactly what you and this administration are doing. You are leveraging private companies to carry out censorship on your behalf. It's dystopian, but worse than that, it's unconstitutional.
It's also false.
I didn't realize Cheemsball was sleeping on top of my PC tower. Well, there we go. Is anything gonna happen to this guy for lying under oath like this? Is he gonna be held to account? It's kind of crazy that, like, it doesn't matter how often you point out these people lie or go afoul of the law, nothing ever happens to them. Always the last word with the left, truly. Truly. And the James ball, it's probably not good that he lays on the top of my PC, you know, for the heat inside of it, but like, he's chilling. They tried to impeach the head of the DHS for the border and failed. Worst this guy will get is go to a different department within the federal government. The only law you can count on is that of a loaded gun. Oh my god, Jack Dorsey and Zucker deserve no forgiveness. I agree, they do not deserve forgiveness. But also the people that lied under oath should also face repercussions for what they have said.